Hi, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Jesse.
Welcome to the Reimagine Success podcast. We're a husband and wife team who want to make a difference and change the way we all view success.
We've had the privilege of interviewing so many amazing, talented, and successful guests. Each one of them experienced success in their own way.
We want to change how society views success by inspiring you to live your best life and celebrate your successes no matter what that looks like, big and small.
Success looks so different for everyone, and we want you to reimagine your success. Welcome to Season 2 of
Reimagine Success. Welcome back to Season 2 of Reimagine Success.
Man, we've already started out with such an amazing bang already with some great guests, but I'm unbelievably excited for today's guest, and we'll get into that more in a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, speak on everything that we've been up to. I know that we've talked about it so much, our studio space and how it's transforming and growing. And we just, if you guys haven't gone, go to our social media pages, go to Instagram, Facebook, patreon.com/creativeglobal. We have all of our behind the scenes looks, videos, content, bonus content. And we're so excited to share that with you and for you to be on our journey with us.
Yeah, it means a lot to us to be able to share what we're doing because it's great to do things, just for yourself, but it's so much better when you get to share it with people and to really make a community. It does take a community to live this life. And we are trying to build that with you all and to really involve you in every step of our journey. So that way, when we talk about reimagining success, we have to also talk about the things that we have success with in our lives and show that even the little things need to be celebrated. So, when we get our space painted, that's going to be a big celebration. When we put up decorations, that's a celebration. You got to celebrate every little success as you go along the way, or else you'll get wrapped up in all the things you have to do and forget to slow down a second and take it all in.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget to celebrate your successes every single day and share with us, reach out to us, email us your successes, because we would love to give you a shout out on the podcast. And don't forget to email us and let us know.
Yeah. So if you want to send in your successes, make sure you hit us up at reimaginesuccesspod@gmail.com. We read every email that comes in and we'll shout you out on the podcast and talk about your successes as we go forward.
That's right. And with that, we are so excited about today's guest.
Today on the podcast, we've got Elias Serrano, who's the CEO of MSIL Staffing and Packaging, an Indiana company he co-founded in 2001. Elias is also the co-founder of 317 Extracts based in Michigan and the founder of the Entrepreneur's Journey podcast that's launching in June of 2022. Elias is a family man, passionate leader, entrepreneur, and master at lessons learned. Elias believes that any person seeking their level of success must believe that believing in yourself is key to achieving endless opportunities.
I love that. Welcome, Elias.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Melissa. I am honored to be on your Season 2 show. This is amazing. And as I shared earlier, this is a masterclass for me as well. And I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and thank you for taking the time out. I know that reading just your bio, that's just a little bit of, I feel like, what you do. So it's so exciting that you gave a little bit of your time with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the invitation.
So I actually met you through Brooke Salazar, who was a former guest of ours, and she's just an amazing person. And she highly recommended you come on because she had spoken to you on her podcast and was really excited about all that you were doing. Yep. And so we said, you know what, got to have them. And so we connected.
I think Brooke and I are like each other's biggest fans, to be honest.
I love it.
We're like empowering each other and always trying to network and connect each other to like really good energy.
That's awesome. She does a lot of that with us as well. Ever since she came on the show and we started connecting, she's, been very helpful with sharing stuff and encouraging other people to check out what we're doing. And I'm always encouraging her stuff and trying to get her more speaking opportunities. So it's been a great working relationship and I'm really grateful for that friendship. And I'm grateful for the friendship that it's producing between us as well. So as we jump in here, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your story, where you came from, what got you started in all of this, and just tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Thank you for that introduction. Sometimes when you hear someone else introduce your story, you're like, wow, that's, a little overwhelming. I've done that much work. And, sometimes you feel like you haven't done enough. But
Right.
I'm originally from Philadelphia. I'm the youngest of 8 children. My mother and
Wow.
yeah, I always say wow too. We have a really big family, and what inspired me as a kid, my father was always an entrepreneur. He was always trying to do something for our family, considering how big we were. We lived in a marginalized community, so my father was my inspiration behind me. I felt like a part of who he is inside of me. So I was always empowered by, what he did. He was my influence. And, coming from a large family and he having to provide, my focus and goal was always to make sure that I was able to provide for my family as well. And my mother, being the matriarch of our family was always my number one, the number one person I wanted to take care of. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, that's great that you have that strong family value that's missing in a lot of cultures today. And it's really cool that you got to watch your father create for your family and that you were inspired by that. And now you're doing the same thing with yours.
Yeah, they think I work too much and I work too many long hours. And I'm like, no, I promise you, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm loving what I'm doing.
And that is so important because there's so many people that have a 9 to 5 and they go and work and they're not fulfilled. They're not happy. And then they sit in traffic and then they come home and they're just not fulfilled and they're not happy. And they go to bed that way and wake up the next day. And that's what we're trying to change. We're trying to change what success looks like. And you have to be happy in that 9 to 5 or that whatever you're working at, you have to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's therapy. It has to be therapy for yourself. That you have therapists that are out there to help people, but you have to be your own therapist. You have to empower yourself. And in those days where you feel like it's just going to be dreadful, somehow inside of you got to say, you can do this. But again, originally from Philadelphia, I relocated to Indianapolis in 2001 because I had an opportunity that was presented to me. So I'm a co-founder of MSL Staffing. We've been around since 2001. And my dearest friend, who's also my best friend, she's the one who presented this opportunity. She's been in the staffing and the light industrial staffing for, I would say, close to 30 years. And my background is HR. And, I saw the opportunity in being able to continue doing my career, which is human resources. And it allowed me to transition into MSIL staffing. And that journey was really interesting, to say the least.
That's awesome.
So now when you transitioned, did you have staffing? Of course, you have to know a lot of people with really impressive backgrounds in order to send to these, big companies. What was that? What did that process look like? Did you have a lot of people that was already in your network that you were able to bring with you and be able to staff for these large companies?
So when I first started in 2001, I didn't come from the background of light industrial staffing. So I literally had to learn every step of, from recruiting, going out to the field and recruiting, to processing and onboarding applicants, to interviewing and I would say interviewing for our clients, being very specific. Our clients are very specific about what they wanted. And, being a startup company, our office was literally in a basement, and it was myself, it was my business partner and her daughter, who was 16 years old, who was in charge of our payroll at that time. And today she's our controller.
Oh, awesome.
So,
nice.
Yeah. And, so learning the business, because I've never done staffing at that level, it really required for me to dive in and to be very focused and to research and learn and to just hang around people who was experts at, in this process.
Right. So mentors.
Definitely.
We talk a lot on our podcast about mentors and surrounding yourself with the people that you want to look up to and you admire in your life. And that's so important. Anytime that you change careers or you change professions, you have to have those mentors. And we love that you said that.
Thank you. Yeah. And this is interesting. I had only really one mentor, and we'll talk about that a little later. But where I failed was not having multiple mentors, considering, the journey that I was on. But mentorship is very important.
Yeah. Cause you've got your hands in quite a few avenues here. So let's keep going with your story. So you've got the staffing company, and you've been doing that for how long now?
It's now going to go on 22 years. So our staffing company
Wow.
transitioned into what they call automotive inspection.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we dove into another vertical in our business. So in 2006, we started to look at automotive inspection. And basically what we're doing is we're going into these automotive companies, and they're having maybe a defect or an issue with a product. And they would reach out to companies that would sort those parts and separate them. And then there's a process that you would follow in separation and clearing them so that they can be re-examined. After that, we then started, our business partner at the time started looking at doing some furniture. I knew nothing about furniture manufacturing at those levels. So that didn't work out. So that was a very healthy failure for us. And then we tried landscaping, another thing that I was not familiar with. And that was another epic fail, but those epic fails are where the lessons are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And I can't wait to dive into that a little bit more, because you have to fail in life. And so many people are afraid of failing. And I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said, if I fail 1,000 times, that's just 1,000 steps. I'm
closer to success.
Closer to success. I'm poorly quoting this, but the idea is that every failure brings you one step closer to success. And if you try landscaping and that's not your thing, well, then now that you should not do landscaping. And that's great to know what is not your niche.
And that was definitely not my niche. Doing it at home and putting flowers in a pot in my house, hey, that's easy. That's breeze. That's a breeze, but not in large scales.
Right.
Oh yeah, our backyard is horrendous, and we need some major landscaping. And neither one of us really have a green thumb at all. And we're like, okay,
I have some orchids.
Who can we hire to come in and fix our yard?
That's fun. That's fun.
And so when you talk about this process, and you have this business for 22 years, and you're trying to go outside and create different avenues, now what does that process look like, and how have you gone to the next step in your life where you also started your next company? What was that process like?
So realistically, something that I've learned through the years of failure, because that's, for me, the failure, there's lessons in those failures, and that's where you look at what are those opportunities. So for me, it was important to always create a roadmap, not only be excited about an opportunity, but really look and examine and, whiteboard. I'm big on whiteboard. I'm big on notes. I love to put, a pen to a paper pad. I love the technology we have today where you can grab your iPhone, and if you have a thought, you can put your notes down or send yourself a text so that you're creatively writing information. So I felt that for me, what was important if we were going to venture into something different, it was to really understand and to really analyze and to study what is the opportunity. And if the opportunity is going to require a lot of work, and what does that work look like? So that was a lesson for me, considering how many times, I've epically failed. I love to say that I failed.
But that's honestly, failure is really just a stepping stone. So to say that you failed, to say that you failed is like, oh, you know what? I just learned a really valuable lesson, whatever that lesson is. And so that's how we look at failure. We're like, it's not really failure. It's like, oh, well, that didn't exactly work, but how can we make it better or go in a different direction?
Yeah, I feel like it's forcing you to think outside the box. You're literally forced to just pause and just re-examine the situation. Like, okay, this didn't work out. What is it do I need to do next? What am I missing? And you have to make that mistake. It just has to happen.
And failure is a real test of character too, because it tells a lot about a person when they fail. Are they going to give up and just throw their hands up and say, well, this didn't work, I quit, and I'm just going to give up on this dream and just keep chasing,
being miserable.
Or are you going to push forward and are you going to figure out how to make it work and to come back and kick its butt later by doing something that's more, practical, or not practical, but just something that's going to work better.
Absolutely. I agree. It's easy just to kind of give up though, right? It's always easy, but it's that pressure to move forward, just to keep going.
Yeah, having that tenacity to say I'm not going to quit just because things didn't go my way.
Right.
Just because it's not easy doesn't mean it's not worth it. And sometimes you have to push through the hard times and keep fighting for the thing that you want, even if you're failing constantly.
Yeah. So my
agree.
Deadly Crimson Kickstarter, the last Kickstarter that I did, I was moving. We were closing on a house. I didn't realize all this was going to happen because we had a 2-week close. Didn't know that we would find the house during the process of the
Wow.
Kickstarter. So there was a lot going on in my personal life, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to give it, that complete 100% attention. So I didn't completely get to my goal, but to me, that is not a failure. To me, that is just saying, hey, I need to step back and figure out another way in order, to get the second issue completely printed and finished. And it just drives me more, honestly. I'm like, okay, well, that's okay, because I didn't have enough time for this. Now I have enough time to really get out there, and I've booked, I am a panelist at MomoCon in Atlanta. I also have a booth at MomoCon, and it just is propelling me to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go a different option. I'm going to go a different route. And this way is actually going to be a lot better because I can get in front of my fans and make real connections and real, friendships through this process. So,
so cool.
It's not failure. It's just a stepping stone.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a refocus.
Yep. Exactly.
That's great. It is. It's a refocus. You're just, sometimes you could just be doing so much and you just need to just kind of stop, pause, and refocus. I love that.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's super cool. So you've got the staffing company. You also are the co-founder of a cannabis processor for medical marijuana, and you host a podcast, or you're about to start hosting a podcast very, very soon as well. How do you balance all of this with your time between all of that and your family and everything else that you do in your life? That seems like a lot.
And stay organized.
Oh my. I love organization. It's crazy. Sometimes I think I'm overkill, but I literally live off of a calendar. It's interesting because having those different entities and being a part of, multiple businesses, I'm involved in every single one of them. I'm really hands-on with all that's going on. So what I do is I literally schedule my day, and I will slot out times that I would work for the staffing side and what I'm doing for the cannabis and what I'm doing for the podcast. And then when it comes to family, I'm a lot more flexible when it comes to, what I'm doing with family members and friends. I always try to make sure that, every morning I'm up at 5:30 and I am focused on my workouts. And then that's when my day begins. Once I'm back home, I get that training out of me. I am refocused on this calendar, and I literally am living on a calendar. It's so weird.
For me, that I struggle with that so badly. And we just talked about this on a previous episode with Bill Mitchell. He's very much like you, blocks out very structured times of days to do very specific tasks. And me, I'm a little bit, I'm not ADD, but I bounce around from thing to thing to thing. I think it's the creative brain in me. Like I'll start doing something and then I'll think of something else and I'll jump on that for a little bit. Then I'll jump back to the thing I was doing. Then I'll jump over here, do something else. And then I'm, just all over the place, but I get stuff done. And that's kind of my method. That's
a work speed, right?
Yeah. It seems chaotic, but it does work for me. So your method, which to me seems just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even think about, only doing this for this time and then only doing this for this time, like that seems stressful to me, but I'm glad it works for you. And it seems to work for a lot of people that are, I guess that's more A-type personality.
Sometimes it could be stressful for me when I'm, if I'm going to do a trip with friends or I'm doing an activity, right? I'm invited to something and I'm like, do you have an agenda? Are you crazy? we're on vacation. Why would we need an agenda? I'm like, well, do we have a schedule? Do we know what we're doing for
do we know what time we're going to eat dinner?
Can you give me some information so that I can kind of block out my day and I know exactly what I'm doing? But, I guess sometimes it's a little bit compulsive.
What are we doing at 2:00 on Tuesday? I've got to know.
But I'm in the middle between you and Jesse. I love my boards. I love my goals. I love my task. And for me, I everything is always different, right? So I'm doing a podcast time at whatever time of the day, and it's always going to be a little bit different. So I can't 100% say I'm going to do a podcast between the hours of 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. because my guests might not be available, to do podcasts. So for me, I have my task. I have my goal boards for every single day. I have my yearly goal boards. I have my monthly goal boards. And then I just kind of break it down. So I have all of my tasks that I have listed for the day. And then it just depends on, when I can actually get all of those tasks done. So as long as I'm crossing off everything off of my list and getting it done, then that's how I kind of do my day. Because when you are doing so many different things, like you're acting, for me, I'm acting, I have auditions, I have to work on Deadly Crimson. We have an intern that's about to start that I need to set time for and train. Thank you. And I'm helping Jesse with his music. We're doing the podcast, and I also have a day job. So there's a lot that always.
Lord of mercy.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a really busy life.
Really busy life. So for me,
and we've got kids.
And
look at that.
Yeah. So for me, it's more about getting all of my tasks done in order to get the goals done tomorrow, and the next day, and the yearly goals done. Like we just crossed off our buy a house, and we crossed it. We originally put May, we were going to buy the house and be in the house. We actually crossed it off way earlier than that. So we actually bought the house in April, which for us was amazing. And it was just a feat that we said back in November, by May of 2022, we were going to be in a new house, and we got it done early. And we just are so excited about that.
Congratulations.
And I don't know if you do this with your life, but we like to practice manifestation. So when we have a goal, we just speak that goal all the time. And we are constantly putting it out there and saying, this is what we need to have. This is what we need to accomplish. And we are going to do it. And it's going to happen in this time. And we keep telling ourselves that it's going to happen in this time until it happens in that time. And sometimes it happens earlier. And sometimes it happens a little bit differently than what we expected, but it happens in the time that we set it for. And it's been really cool to watch that happen in our lives.
Right.
And that's like the best energy you could get when you have set your goals. And if you're exceeding them or you're executing them ahead of time, that's like celebration. I hope you guys are popping bottles of champagne or whatever it is you like and celebrating those milestones. And I wanted to touch on goals. Something weird that I do is I literally write my goals, in December. I'm very hyper focused. I start writing them a little earlier, but I'll write them all out. And I try to make sure they're, 3 to 5. That's it, because I can't do anything more than that. I then seal that goal, my goals into an envelope. I seal it, and then I put it away for January 1 to say, okay, what did you get accomplished? What was done already? And I love the process of crossing out.
Oh, yes.
Right.
The best feeling ever.
Yeah. And now I know what my goals are, in my head, but I'm like, there's something about saying you've accomplished this in that entire, you were hyper focused to get it done.
Another thing that I love to do about goals is I will set my goals, but then I will funnel backwards. So I set my goals and then I say, okay, just the house. We'll use that for an example. We have a goal of May 2020 to buy the house. How do we get there? And then we go backwards. We have to do this. We have to have this much amount of money. How are we going to do that? We have to do this in order to get that much money. How are we going to do that? And then you just keep going backwards until
I love that idea.
You go forwards, and then you make the process done. So we do that with pretty much, I've kind of done that my whole life with goals. And it's a process that will make you get to your goals a lot quicker and a lot faster. So I was 18 and I saw a BMW, a Z3, a little 2-seater. And I was 18 years old. I just started my very first job, like real job. And I saw this car outside of an Outback steakhouse, and I've never seen a little Z3 before. And I said to myself, I want this car. I am going to get this car. This is going to be my next car. And I gave myself a deadline. I gave myself a month that I was going to get this car. And I did. I had the money. I had everything ready. I just could not find the car that I wanted. I went to the BMW dealership everywhere. But eventually I found the correct car, the right car. It was black on black on black, gorgeous and low miles. And I went, and there was another person, a couple that wanted to buy the car. Here I am, a little 18-year-old. I I pitched my entire life on this car. And I said, no, you cannot give it to this other couple. You have to give it to me. This is why, because I've saved up for 8 months now. This is, I need this car, and I got it. They, chose me, and I picked the car and I drove it, and it was my baby, and I washed it every single day. And
that's a really good story. Now, I got to tell you, it sounds like there was a sales in there too. There's some sales in there.
I did. She can sell.
I sold myself. I was like, nope. Even our house, for example, I said, you know what? If we could write a letter to the owner and just let them know we will really treat this house amazing. We really need it. We were in a 2-bedroom condo and we really needed the space. And, I said, we need to write a letter to these homeowners. And it just so happened we were able to write a letter, and we included pictures of the family. We included pictures of our bunnies. And they chose us out of 11 offers. I
love that.
11 offers.
Yep.
11 offers.
11 offers. And
especially in this market today, right? With everything selling so quickly overnight, you put your bid in, and all of a sudden turn around, like, oh, someone else outbidded me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Especially with these cash offers. Oh, it's terrible.
Well, if I get to buying another home, I will make sure to take those notes.
Yes.
Take what you did I'm going to put that in practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyone out there that's listening, if you really do need a house, do those steps. I'm telling you, just say what you need. Say it out loud. Don't say it in your head. Literally, verbally say it out loud.
Get other people to say it with you.
Yes.
We were on set, and it was days before our closing, and Melissa looked at the people that we were on set with, and she's like, I'm going to need you to say this out loud with us, that the house is going to appraise and everything's going to be good. And everybody at the table said it out loud with us.
Yeah, I made them.
And it was really funny, but
that's perfect. Even with this podcast, I got to tell you, there's been some very long, dreadful nights, where I'm thinking like, and again, it's that failure process where you have to embrace it. You have to find, what's that nugget. And I'll just say, I'll just kind of give myself, affirmation, and I'll just say, Eli, you're going to do this. It's going to be successful.
Yep.
There definitely are doubters, but that's okay. You have to believe in yourself. If you want it bad enough, you have to believe in it really hard. You have to believe it bad enough, and then you have to just go for it. So,
that is so
congratulations
true.
On your beautiful home.
Thank you so much. And we can call you Eli, because you just called
yourself
Eli.
Eli.
Okay,
say
perfect.
Eli. That's even better. I should have said that at the beginning.
I love it. Eli.
And you know where that came from? My dear sister in Philadelphia decided one day, just as a joke, said, I'm going to change your name to Eli, because she was the only person that in the world that called me Eli. And she's like, give me about 30 days. I'm going to start changing your name. And it took her, 6 months to a year. And then I started calling myself Eli.
That's awesome.
I like it.
I've done that with so many people. I kind of like to coin nicknames for people. I used to have this friend, and I'll give him a shout out. His name is Brandon Ragland. And so I started calling him B-Rag, just, for kicks. And then everyone still to this day, this was like 10 years ago, everyone still is calling him B-Rag now. It's great.
That's awesome. Just do not call me M or Mel, because I'm not a male, I'm a female.
It sounds like they made attempts then.
Well, speaking of your podcast, tell us a little bit about what it's about, what your goals are with it, and where you want to see that go.
So the goal with the podcast is realistically to spotlight entrepreneurs. I'm focused on marginalized communities, right? I'm focused on, interviewing, minority-owned business owners, anybody who's representing a marginalized community, LGBT, because I represent that market. And what's important for me is that they get to tell a story, right? I find that through storytelling, which, it's something that really doesn't happen a lot. I find through storytelling, you can really share what are some lessons that you've experienced. And then what were those opportunities that you created through those lessons, right? There's always hardship in anything you're doing. I feel like with the Entrepreneur's Journey podcast, I just really want to spotlight, be able to give back, right, to the community and share stories, put entrepreneurs on the spotlight, say, hey, look, you have the platform. Here are some questions you can ask, but let's make it real. Let's teach the people something. There's so many entrepreneurs that are up and coming, especially our young generation, new people just trying to figure out what to do next. COVID really changed everything.
Everything.
Yeah, and that's an amen to that. And that's one of the inspirations behind the entrepreneur's journey, is to really showcase folks who can tell their story, and what are those lessons and opportunities that came from it.
Well, I think COVID really kind of told people in a real strong way, a lot of these companies don't care about you, unfortunately. And it drove that lesson home to a lot of people when, a lot of people were laid off, just their companies gave up on them. And so a lot of people started going into business for themselves and said, you know what, I don't need to work 9 to 5 for somebody else pursuing their dream when I could pursue my own dream. And a lot of people started things, and they have these incredible journey stories now. And I'm really excited about your podcast and everything that you're bringing to it, because it's very much along the lines of ours, in that we highlight people's journeys and, talk about what they're doing. And it's just super cool to have that shared experience with you, because people need to hear more of this. They need to hear more encouragement. There's so many people that want to start something that don't have the courage.
They're scared of failure. They're fearful, and fear is the number one stopper of stopping all of your goals and dreams.
It's a hard
to be
stop.
Controlled and fear, and that's what we want to discourage people. We want to discourage them. Stop fear. Just stop it in its tracks and just go for all of your dreams and all of your goals.
Because what's weird is when you're afraid, right? When there's fear involved in it, and you have a really good idea, or you have there's a purpose in there, right? And you just start to overthink, which is really easy to psych yourself out and overthink something, right? And all you do is just continue to find 100 more reasons why you should embrace that fear. When in reality, you should think about what greatness can come from it. What if I fail? So what if it doesn't work out?
Yep.
You know what? I at least tried. I at least made the effort to try to give something back. And you know what? It can't go wrong.
Right.
You just got to try it.
And when it comes to fear, especially with your podcast being with more marginalized communities, that fear is tenfold. For people in the LGBTQ community or minorities, like they suffer so much more than, say, us who are just white cisgendered people, who we've been talking about this a lot lately, and white privilege, and how a lot of people are like, well, white privilege isn't real. I struggled too. Yeah, but you don't have to struggle because of your skin color. You don't have to struggle because of your sexuality. You don't have to struggle because of things you can't control. You might have struggles, but it doesn't include those simple aspects of just your personality and who you are as a person, and the life you were born into. So our struggle isn't nearly as deep and hard as people in these communities that you're representing, which I think is just so amazing, because there's not enough representation. There's not enough people speaking out against, people being held down by societal norms and the way we view things in our country. And it's just so important to give a voice to these people and show, hey, just because you are in a marginalized community doesn't mean that you can't make a difference. You can't make your own business. You have every opportunity, and you should go for it, and you should push through those issues. And it's great to have people that are on their side and are advocating for them, and just trying to make a better world for everybody that is marginalized. And I have much respect for that.
And I encourage, if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter like what background you're representing. If you're considering to become an entrepreneur and you have a vision and you have a desire, check out your chamber, look at your local governments, because they have programs that are available. See, back in 2001, when I started, I never thought about those things. I didn't think that I can, go to a chamber of commerce and they have all the tools that I need in order for me to be successful and to do things right. I kind of had to learn my way, which was a little bit more on the harder way, but no regrets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and you're able now to do everything that you've done and teach others from your failures and your struggles, and you're able to teach others the best way to do it. And that's what we're here for, right? We're here to lift everyone up, and we want to promote everyone, and for all humans. We're all humans, and we need to come together. We do not need to right now everything is so divided, and
Right.
everyone
It's
is,
so
is
wild.
separate and is so separated. And we need to bring everything together in order to really grow and to come together as a community and to lift each other up. And I think that that's what we're missing in society these days is, just this division. It needs to come together. And I love that you are bringing this together,
I
and we'll
love
work with
that.
you as much as possible
I love
on your
that. That's
podcast.
empowering.
Yes.
As much as possible, we'll work with you and
Thank you so
and help
much.
your podcast.
Yeah,
Thank
because
you so much.
that's such a big thing for us. I mean, a lot of our mission is bringing the world together, creating unity, making this one happy world, being decent humans. That's all in our mission statement of who we are, not just with Reimagined Success, but
everything.
Everything. My music, Melissa's acting, and all the platforms she gets to do in Deadly Crimson. Like we constantly push these ideas of inclusivity and togetherness and changing the world for a more positive future.
This is really, really, really amazing. You guys are, I don't know. I got no more, but just amazing right now.
Well, let's go to our next thing. Now, you actually are a medical marijuana processor, and you co-founded 317 Extracts. So what got you interested in that? What was that journey like in that process?
So my nephew is the founder of 317 Extracts, and my business partner on the staffing side and I are co-founders with him, right? And what excited me about the cannabis, first of all, my nephew worked really hard for 2 years. He's a user, so he's been using it for many years, but he's always been very passionate about it. So he worked for the company. It was not something he wanted to do. He wasn't that 9 to 5 person. He just felt there was something bigger and better that he can do. So he researched for 2 years, about the cannabis. And I had an opportunity to go with him to Colorado, which was an amazing trip when you want to learn about the cannabis industry, right? There were so many moving parts, but what inspired the first of all, we had to go through the process of being a medical license processor before we can go into the recreational, because the rec came in at I would say 6 months later. So the only thing available at the time when we were getting licensed was medical.
Now,
so
how hard was that process? Was that process a very hard process?
Oh, if I had a child, they would want my first child, because you're literally providing a laundry list of information. You're going through a very thorough investigation, on the federal level, on the state level, and they want to know every detail of who you are. And the background checks are important because you're engaged in marijuana, and we've seen it misused in some ways that people just didn't know any better, right? But when you're dealing with medical, you're literally looking at a different grade of product, and they have a higher expectation of anybody who's going to be manufacturing it or processing it.
And the medical marijuana field, I feel, is so important. Back in the 60s with Nixon and the war on drugs, he had scientists telling him, hey, these drugs actually are more medicines than they are drugs. They shouldn't be classified as these terrible things. And he was like, nah, I'm going to start a war on drugs, and I'm going to just put out all this propaganda that pot is bad. It will kill you if you smoke it once, like all this ridiculous propaganda that he put out there. And so all the great medical benefits that come along with marijuana have just been overlooked for, the last 50, 60 years. And
there are many benefits.
So many benefits. And, people are now realizing, oh, this can help with cancer. This can help with depression and just the list just goes on.
There's a laundry list. I think if you look at all the types of medications that are out there when it comes to, things that can help with personality or engagement or focus, the medical or the marijuana itself can really help, alleviate some of those issues or a lot of those issues.
Yeah. And so much better than, say, these depression meds that doctors are just prescribing out of nowhere. I took a prescription depression medicine for 2 doses, and it made me feel like I was a complete zombie. I didn't recognize myself when I was on it, and I stopped taking it because I couldn't. That's not who I wanted to be. Marijuana's never been that way. Like anytime I've used that for depression purposes, it's just been, I remain myself. I remain, as a person who has clear thought processes, and it's just helped me to level out and balance myself versus just numbing myself to the point where I can't focus on what's wrong.
Yeah, and something unique about our product, and it's called 317 Extracts, is that we are what they call certified kind. So it's like to say organic. We're not really supposed to use the word or the term organic, but it's certified kind. So our product, when it's being processed, what's interesting, we process it with ice and water. It's isolate. So it has no butane, it has no BMO, it has no propane. There's no chemicals in there. It's pure, clean product, which is really great.
Now, have you thought about, I know you're doing it with 317 Extracts. Have you thought about taking the processing system and branching it out to other maybe marijuana manufacturers and using your processes instead of theirs?
So my nephew I help out on everything that's on the administrative support. And my nephew is the one who runs the actual facility. We engage on a daily basis. And the goal for us is to, once Indiana, fingers crossed, once Indiana legalizes it, we would like to transition into the state of Indiana. But the goal is to be able to, we're creating the processes now and the operating, the standard operating agreements that you would create. And we're doing that so that we can duplicate it a second time through the process of us doing this. And this is brand new for me. I spend, I would say, about an hour, 2 hours a day, just trying to study and understand where the cannabis is going. Because ideally, I would love for it to be in our backyards here in Indiana.
Oh yeah.
Well,
we have a vote coming up in Atlanta
or
in Georgia. I hope it goes through, because it's just ridiculous. The fact that they can sell alcohol, willy-nilly, and alcohol is one of the worst drugs you can use. I mean, it causes you to do things that you normally wouldn't do. It impairs you unbelievable. You never hear about people beating their wives when they're on weed, or getting into bar fights. People don't do that. Like, they're just chill. So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense that, prescription drugs and alcohol are fine and everything's great, except they're extremely harmful. And yet the things that actually could help, like marijuana and some of the hallucinogenic drugs that they're testing right now, such as psilocybin and DMT and MDMA, those sort of things that actually have real effects on people's brains and can help them to overcome issues forever, not just temporarily. Those things are classified as being so bad and just terrible for our society. And there's so much propaganda around it. It sickens me.
Thank God for science, right?
Right.
They just need to keep, pushing science.
Right.
Exactly.
Let it tell the story.
So I know we've kind of touched about this a little bit about some of your failures. And I know that you, being in business for so long, you have, so many different failures and journeys that you've gone through. So what has it been like over the years? And how we've talked about it, but how do you pick yourself up after a failure? And what does that journey look like for you?
So for me, if I experience failure, which, I think I now can qualify that I have an MBA in it, right? My master's, I have an MBA in failure, right? And I wear that badge proudly, because it's through those experiences that I'm able to reconnect. So anytime I feel like I fail, when I have an experience where it didn't go right, it didn't go as planned, and everything looks wrong, it's heavy on the shoulder. What I really do is I take my pen and my pad, and I start to just write down, what was it that caused this failure? What did I do wrong? And kind of roadmap it. So for me, I'm very visual. So for me, it's very important to just take that writing pad and just start to write the information down. What is it? How did you fail? What steps did you take wrong? What did you not do? Where did you miss it? So when you just start to stare at that document, you can really see it becomes very transparent what it was and where you failed or where you made mistakes or what you skipped.
Yeah.
And that's what I find, that's what helps me.
That process is so great, because most people, they fail, and instead of like trying to think logically about it and saying, okay, what actually went wrong? They're just like, I'm worthless. I can't do anything. And they just get down on themselves and they fail again and they fail again and they fail again because they're not assessing what led them to their failures.
So I love that you shared.
Important.
Yes, you shared your process because I know it will help so many out there to stop and say, okay, I failed. Let me step back. Let me do what Eli said. Let me write down all of the things that I feel like I did incorrectly or that I need to work on. Because we always have to grow and learn. And
you want to always grow and learn.
Yeah. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. Anything that we do in life, we have to put hard work into. But it's also surrounding ourselves with mentors and people that will help us. And you have to have a good support system in place.
Yes. And it's interesting that you mentioned mentors. So if I were to, when I reflect and I think, okay, what's your biggest failure, Eli, when you look at it in the last 22 years? Now, mind you, I'd literally started working at the age of 13. I was like Mr. Little Entrepreneur at the age of 13, vacuuming my neighbors' offices. And that was my job.
Nice.
And that was the start of me wanting and had this desire to always work. But something that I didn't do in 22 years or in this process that, of being a part of building a business was aligning myself with mentorship, with people, different skill sets. I was gravitating to what was most comfortable for me rather than, going outside of my comfort zone and finding people who could really be impactful and to teach me new things that can empower me or teach me to do, or to run a business differently. It's just
right.
A mentor just helps you to think outside the box and they're challenging you. And I didn't really do that. I was kind of comfortable in my zone and I feel like I cheated myself. So for me, I always reflect and say, going forward, you are going to buddy up and have mentors, people that are smarter and brighter than you so that you can learn.
It's so important. It's so funny because I'm about to actually on Monday, I have a presentation with Mark Cuban and I've been working on his bio and some questions for him for an interview. And one of the things that you said is you started working and learning the practice of working at a young age, 10 to 15 years old. I see a lot of really successful people that are later in life that started learning how to develop a work life at such a young age. I was also the same way. I was 9 years old and I worked at a ceramic store, I live with my grandparents. So it's a long story, but, I started at really young, 9 years old, and I was making $100 a week.
Yeah, I was a 12-year-old.
A lot of money.
It was a lot of money for a little kid.
I was the 12-year-old dishwasher making $40 a Saturday.
That is cool. I was making $100 just vacuuming. I'm telling you, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's great.
And the same thing with Mark Cuban. He did the same thing when he was 12. He, started this door-to-door sales campaign that basically, launched his career. And I feel like a lot of people, when they're young, they need to teach their kids to do that lemonade stand kind of thing. I think a lot of kids have forgot to do that nowadays. And we just give them what they need, right? We give them the money for college. We give them a car, and we don't have them work for it anymore. And I feel like we kind of need to go back to our basics with our kids and teach them how to do these things, these skills, so they'll be successful in the future.
They need to make an app for that.
I'm sure there is an app for
Jobs
that. There's
for
an app
kids.
for everything. Jobs for kids.
That's perfect. There you go. Jobs for kids.
If you're an app developer out there and you want to make an app called Jobs for Kids, just give us credit. It's no big deal. But you can have it. We don't have time for another thing.
Just blog us on social media every single day.
But a big part of that is if you're going to start something yourself and if you're going to work towards a goal, you have to believe in yourself. And part of your bio that I loved, I'm going to read it again because I love the way you put this, is that you believe that any person seeking their level of success must believe that believing in yourself is key to achieving endless opportunities. And I think that's such a powerful statement, because there are endless opportunities out there in the world. But if you don't believe that you can achieve them, then you don't have endless opportunities. You are very limited, and your circle is small, and everything outside of your circle of what you believe that you can accomplish is unaccomplishable to you.
Right.
So what did your journey look like in coming up with that mindset? Like, where did you start initially believing in yourself? Was somebody in your corner, like pushing you and giving you that inspiration to believe in yourself? Or is it just something that happened more naturally, organically for you?
Yeah, I would say it was organically, because as a child, when you're the youngest of 8 children and your mother is the oldest of her siblings, which, that's 11 children.
Wow.
And,
oh my goodness.
And
huge family.
Yeah. And my mother and my father they were hyper focused on family events, and everything was about the family. Right. So you sometimes get lost in that. You're the youngest kid, you have these older siblings, everybody's doing their own thing. So for me, I wasn't getting that empowerment, that inspiration as a little boy. And as I, started to grow up, and I was, 13 years old, and I started working, I didn't have this cheerleader behind me saying like, hey, you can do it. So I just felt, for me, what worked for Elias Serrano was to empower myself. I found myself, and I do it today, I find myself constantly reminding myself, like, only you can achieve what you want to achieve. Only you can do whatever it is you want. You want freedom. You have to work, and you have to believe that you can create that freedom. You want to have a lot of money. You have to work your butt off to make a lot of money. You want to travel the world. You're going to have to work really hard to do those things. So I was always a cheerleader for myself. On top of that, I surrounded myself around people who really, really, really cared, and people who would inspire me and empower me. For some reason, I felt like I was like a magnet, and it was like, wow, you're so, you're inspiring me. And I'm like, well, hell, you're inspiring me by you telling me that I'm inspiring. What did I say that inspire you? I love life. I love my family. I love my job. I love my employees. I love the people that I'm engaged with. And that just feeds me that fire of inspiration and belief.
Oh, and that's success. That is success. That is exactly what we talk about, what you just said, that you love everything in your life, and everything equals success. If you love it, that is success. And that's what we're trying to change everyone's mindset of, that it doesn't matter how much you have in the bank account right now. It doesn't matter. That does not matter. Do you love what you do? Do you love your life? Are you leading with your heart? Are you giving back? Are you getting? You have to receive and you have to give. And are you doing all of these things? And are you propelling yourself forward? And that all of that is success. And it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, because you can lose everything tomorrow. And then that is part of your journey.
That is correct.
It's all about your journey. And even that is successful, because maybe you have to take a step back and reevaluate everything, like we said earlier. But all of that is equals success.
Yeah. And I like that, success is multiple levels. We all have our own level of what success is. Not everybody is chasing, that, $1 million plus bank accounts, or, the luxury cars or the boats. There are some people very satisfied with where they're at that moment, and that's their level of success. And
exactly.
I applaud them for whatever that level is, because we're all different. We're all created differently, and we just have different drives. So what success looks like for me is going to be different than what it looks like for the two of you. Right. And vice versa for other people around us.
But I think the more important thing that we need to do is share our stories, share our adventures, share what we're doing, because then we have an entire collective of what works, what doesn't work, how we can work together. So my journey, that's what we're trying to do on the podcast, is also share our journeys, share our experiences, share our minds. And you're sharing your mind, which is a completely different perspective. And I love it, because when we grow that way, way, we're also growing our own minds. And maybe we're not going to do exactly what you do, but we learn from that and we grow from it, and you learn. And it's just, that's what life is about.
Yeah, we take principles and we apply them to our situations, and we figure out how to take the aspects of your successes or whoever's success that we're talking to and apply it to what we're doing and make our lives better, and hopefully vice versa with everybody else.
And all of our listeners.
I love that. See, and that's so true. I always feel like in any engagement, there is always an opportunity to learn something. You know, there's always a takeaway. It's impossible to be a part of something or to be engaged in something or to try something and not find a lesson in there or something that you can learn, or a mastery or something that you can apply.
Yeah. And you know, it's so funny because sometimes when you're engaging with someone, you're like, hey, how are you? And you just get good. I'm good. How's life? How's your job going? Oh, it's good. You know, have you talked to those people? Oh, it's good. Everything's good. It's all good. But what if they shared their story that happened yesterday? Well, yesterday, this happened and I learned this. Now we're walking away with actually some knowledge from that conversation. And I feel like what you're doing with your podcast is very similar to this, with stories and sharing stories and having everyone learn from those stories. And then that's where everything needs to go. When you say hi to someone, go into detail of what your life is about. And they might think that you're weird, but you know what? They might walk away learning something from what you've just said.
I love it when you're engaged with someone in a conversation, especially when it's a stranger and you're having a conversation and you're thinking like, are they listening to me? But you're like, I'm going to keep on sharing.
Yep, exactly.
Well, a thing that I find a lot, you know, when you talk about believing in yourself, is sometimes you have to believe in yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you. Even true. People that should, you know, friends, family, not trying to say anything poorly about my father, but, you know, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a musician, and he would always tell me, that's good, but have a backup plan, because musician is a pipe dream. You know, not everybody can be a musician, and, you know, only the lucky make it. And it was like, if you don't achieve this level of success as a musician, then you have failed and you have not made it. And for me, I recognize that, you know, my dad tried to be a musician when he was young, and due to some circumstances, he almost made it to the level that he wanted to be at. And then, you know, he had life happened, and he had to give up on that dream. And so it was always like one of those dreams that died in him. And so he was only speaking from his hurt. And that's what experience. That's what a lot of people do. They speak from their hurt, and they unintentionally put down your dream, because you've got this dream that they wanted something similar, or they wanted to do something different with their lives and they didn't get to. So therefore you probably won't get to either. And it's the mindset that people carry on through their lives. And we have to stop and say, you know what? That's their story. That's their pain, their hurt that they're dealing with. But that doesn't affect my dream and my belief in myself. And I'm going to keep pushing towards my dream, because I believe that I can achieve it. I believe that I can make a difference in this world. I believe that I can do the thing that's in my heart. And I'm not going to let anybody stop me from reaching that. I'm just going to keep believing towards it.
Right.
That was amazing. That's your journey. I love it. That's your journey. See, you have your own journey, and you just went, you just pushed forward. You blocked everything else, and you stayed focused, and you just kept going. And look where you're at today.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm getting closer to every single day. And that's the important
work
part.
in progress, right?
And
it's a journey.
I don't think I'll ever be where I want to be, because even when I achieve the level of success that I'm going for at this moment, that'll increase with every success. I'll have a new goal and a new place that I want to be. And that's what's cool about life, is you get to keep changing your target, and you keep pushing that target further and further out.
Yeah. And an entrepreneur's journey is never ending. I don't feel like it never ends. It just doesn't.
Yeah, because I mean, most people who are true entrepreneurs are going to keep doing something, even if like, let's say you started a business today and it just blew up and you made bukus of money. You're probably not going to just sell it all, retire, and live on a beach somewhere. You're probably going to do something, because you have that mindset to achieve stuff in this world, and you want to make the world a better place in some way or another. And so just keeping on pushing your dreams further and further, and coming up with new dreams. That's what life's about.
I agree with you 1,000%. That is true.
And now I know that you do have a lot of different entities that you're doing. How has that affected your lifestyle today, where you are now? Have you had to get a bigger space because of everything that you're doing? Has that changed your lifestyle radically? Are you in your office all the time now? How does
Oh,
that look?
wow. Mhm. My office became I have two. I have my corporate office and then I have my home office. And my home office has become one of my main offices. And between the space, what's changed? What's changed in everything, and having so many different verticals in what we're doing. It's using the technology. I am not outside of an iPhone and an iPad where I can hit play and stop and turn it off. I am not a technical person, even from putting a headset on and understanding how this thing works. That has been for me the biggest challenge. It's, technology is really where we're heading, right? So
Yeah.
it's me now learning outside of doing the podcast and, learning about business. It's really understanding the technology. And now I'm, my frame of thought is I got to do something that it's going to involve tech. Because that's the way of the future. So now I'm hyper focused on that as well. But podcast is important right now first.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, do you have a team in place that helps you grow your tech and your knowledge of tech, and will help you give you software ideas? Do you have the team in place that helps you with that?
Yeah, so we have outsourced IT services, but I have buddied up. So I have a mentor who he is he specializes in cybersecurity. He's like one of the top guys in it, and he's also my mentor in understanding how creating let's just say an app, or how to create what's the impact of creating an application or something that's very technical. So because it's very new to me, it's something I'm not very familiar with. I am applying myself to really understanding, learning, and just educating myself on it.
So your friend can make our jobs for kids apps.
Oh my God. Let me see if I have some room in my schedule. Oh,
that we're doing the same thing over here.
So what are some of your future goals? What do you want to see happen in the next, say, 5 years? Where do you want to see these companies and your podcast go? And what does that look like?
So, I'm all about creating opportunities, and that's what my business partner is also about. We're about creating opportunities. So when it comes to our staffing company, we want to continue creating opportunities by expanding our footprint. We have a division within our staffing company that does professional talent search. So that's something that we're pushing out in the market as well. As far as 317, the hope is that we can, Indiana will pass a law and we can expand into our backyard, into our hometown. And with the entrepreneur's journey, my goal with the entrepreneur's journey is to really create impact in the lives of the people that are, considering to become an entrepreneur. And my hope is that, we can teach lessons and we can help them understand, how to create opportunities from it. So I just want to be, like a liaison. I want to be a voice and a champion for any new person that wants to, experience having their own business.
I love that so much.
That's so funny. We said that at the same time. I do though. I love that because we need more people like you out there who are championing and not putting down, not just employees, but people who want to start businesses. They need that support, just like you did when you were a young kid. You needed that person behind you. Yeah. And, it's so impressive that you created that yourself. And you were like, you know what, if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to be my own champion. But how great will it be for you now to be that champion for everyone else who is trying, and they're trying to start a business. And then they have you and they have us and they have all of these people behind them saying, you can do it. So it's like the little red train who's trying to go up the hill and it's like, I think I can, and you have all these people behind you going, you can do it.
We think you can too.
I need to buy me my own pom-poms now.
Yes.
I love it. We need a pom-pom in here for every time you say something smart. You're like, yay.
Be each other's cheerleader. There you go.
Yes. Exactly. I love it.
Well, speaking of being cheerleaders, our favorite part of the podcast is when we get you to say what your most recent success is that you want to celebrate. Big or small, doesn't have to be big. Could be something personal, could be something business wise, could be something with a podcast. But we just want to take a moment and stop, reflect, and celebrate
you.
So I am celebrating, although my podcast should have been live yesterday, should have went out yesterday. I'm still celebrating the journey that I'm on to get it done. I'm celebrating that June 1st is when we're going to kick it off. And I'm celebrating that I can hopefully help some people out there that are considering becoming an entrepreneur and giving a piece of myself to them. So I'm celebrating that opportunity and that journey.
I love it. I love it. Now, is there a reason behind the launch date? I know you were going to launch yesterday. Is there a particular reason why you have gone to June 1st?
Yes. So we'll start with it. You had spoke earlier about batch. You were doing your batch interviews. Okay. Well, I learned the hard way about the batch interviews, and I kind of sort of aligned everybody or scheduled them out differently. So it created a problem with getting my the folks that were going to be interviewed scheduled. And then Pride happened. And then I figured, like, wait a minute, you know what? I'm going to hold off on this date, and I want to release it June 1st so that I can go out there with a bang, and it can represent, the opening of Pride Month. And, being someone who represents the LGBTQ community, I thought what better way than, to put my podcast out there than on that day and that month and celebrate the entire month.
Oh, that's perfect.
If you're going to be a podcast that represents that group of people and like really champion them, then what a better time to start than on the beginning of the month that celebrates that and promotes, equality and inclusion and everything that this world needs more of.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And community. We all need every community needs to come together to form one large community, and we will have such a better and happier world.
Yeah, we can learn from each other, and that's what's important. Keep learning. Never stop learning.
Put aside your differences, put aside your beliefs, put aside the things you were raised to think were okay or not okay, and talk to people. Get to know their stories and find out that they're humans just like you, and they deal with things just like you, and they've got interesting stories to share just like you. And stop coming at conversations with your bigotry and your preconceived notions about groups of people, and just be open to growing and learning and experiencing.
If your mind is closed to, getting to know someone and learning about someone, it's really there, it's your loss. You really have an opportunity to maybe experience an aha moment. Yeah. But you have to literally have an open mind, and you have to be willing to allow people into your life, and to, especially those stories. I love stories. I just feel like you can learn so much from a story.
Yeah. A story teaches you more than just reading something from, an encyclopedia. Like, I'll understand the definition of this word, but when you tell me a story, I'm like, oh, now I really understand what that word really does mean in a context of a story per se.
And there's experiences that come with it. When someone's telling you their story of, whether it's a story about how I, was able to graduate college, or how I was able to open a business or start something, there's a lesson in there. And if you listen too carefully, you can really catch it.
Yeah. I love it.
I spent a lot of my life as a hyper religious butthole, just treating people poorly because I thought, because they thought differently than me, that, I was superior in whatever stupid mindset I had back then. And since I've let go of all that, I've really gotten to know so many different types of people and really, like you said, listen to their stories. And it's opened up the entire world to me. And my little bubble has popped, and I'm able to see so much more in the world and get out of my stupid echo chamber and really just see people for who they are and experience life in such a more richly fulfilling way.
Wow. Powerful.
Love it. All right. So Eli, where can our listeners find you, and where can they find your podcast so they can keep up with this launch date that's coming up?
Yeah. So wherever you listen to your podcast, that's where, whatever platform you're listening to podcasts, I'm going to be on those platforms. Right now we're working on our website so that we have a landing page once the podcast is released. Right now, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at Elias, ELIAS at ms-il.com. That's my business email address. And June 1st, that's the target date for the Entrepreneur's Journey to be released.
Well, we cannot wait. That's going to be
We are
so exciting.
excited for you and so proud of you for
Thank
taking
you.
this journey and for giving back to the world, the communities, and just really showing who you are as a person and as a human.
And I assume you'll
you.
have social medias connected to the podcast and all that good stuff.
They'll be able to find me on Instagram. It'll be the Entrepreneur's Journey on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Excellent. Well, we will be sharing out those links as you're getting closer to your launch date. We'll be encouraging people to listen and jump on board with that and to support your podcast as well, because we truly believe in everything that you are doing and want to be partners with you through it all.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Jesse. And I love your podcast. And listeners, if you're hearing this, there's a lot of education in your podcast. Listen to it carefully.
We love it. We love it so much. Now, speaking of that, what advice would you give to those listeners who are a little bit fearful? They're a little bit scared. They want to start their own business. What advice would you give to those listeners?
My advice would be seek out your local chamber, read, study, put into practice what you're doing. Don't be afraid. More importantly, these podcasts that are being produced by people like ourselves, we're doing it with a purpose. So, listen to these podcasts, listen to those audiobooks. There's a lot of lessons that you can get for free, and they can really make you strong in what you're doing. They can really feed your brain. So just feed your brain.
Love it.
I absolutely love it. Eli, you've just been amazing. And this interview has been so enjoyable for me. And
me too.
And I've learned from you, and, hopefully people have learned from all of us, and that we can just continue this relationship going forward. I look forward to seeing what the future brings, and we're definitely going to have you back on once the podcast is up and rolling. We'd love to come on your podcast. We may not be minorities.
Yes. Don't even. Everybody's gonna be invited. That's how it's gonna end up.
Yeah,
it's a story. I want you to tell your story.
Absolutely. And we look forward to connecting with you on every level going forward.
Thank you.
Yes, you have been just amazing. And I love that you've been so open and honest and truthful, because the world needs more of that. And we have to really share the truthful story behind our stories and our adventures and our journey. And we love that you have been open and honest with us as well.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation to be on your show.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you next time.
Till next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Man, Eli is just right or on the same page as we are. He's just doing the things that we just want to see more people doing. And that's encouraging people in the world to go after their dreams, to achieve, to grow, to just be their best selves.
Oh, yeah. And if you think that sharing your stories will not help anyone, just forget that mentality, because sharing your stories is what helps the community grow. And do that every single day. Don't just say, I'm good, I'm fine, everything's great. Say why it is. Why is everything going good? Why is everything going bad? What is going on? And have that mentor. A mentor is so important in life.
Yeah, I recommend that you reach out to somebody every single day and talk about what's going on in your life. Don't go through this life by yourself. Share your experiences with other people, because that's how we all grow as a collective.
That's right. And if you are a collective and you're with everyone in the world, then you will just never be lonely, and you will always succeed, and you will be successful.
Yeah. And we would love to have you as a part of our community, not just as a listener, but as a vibrant participator in our community. So feel free to reach out to us. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/creativeglobal. We got lots of cool stuff going on over there. Lots more opportunities to learn. We're going to be doing a lot of live videos and talking to people, having some chats live. So make sure you jump over there and get signed up for that, and just be a part of everything that's going on in the Reimagine Success family.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget, if you love this podcast, share it with a friend. Word of mouth is everything, especially in the podcast industry.
Yes.
So if you love what we're doing and you believe in it, then share it with your friends. Let them know that there's a podcast that will be able to inspire and motivate them as well.
Yeah. And with that, this has been a Creative Global Entertainment production.
Did you get motivated? Do you feel inspired?
Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses anymore, and don't forget to celebrate your successes every single day. Thank you for taking this journey with us.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Reimagine Success Pod. Email us at reimaginesuccesspod@gmail.com and let us know what your successes are. Head over to patreon.com/creativeglobal for bonus and behind-the-scenes content.
New episodes every Thursday at reimaginesuccesspod.com or your favorite podcast streaming platform.
So let's change our mindsets and reimagine success.